before I actually put the words, over the reference track or go in the studio and lay down vocals. Everything for me is about execution. Because I can go on with 1,000 ideas, but if I'm not executing it right, it doesn't feel home to me. So I like to put a lot of different things and wordplays and messages in my music because I want it to live further than 2 weeks, further than the attention span of how we are as kids, We take it, we listen to it, and we move on. But I want it to live for the next 20 years. So you have to listen to it over and over again to fully understand the direction and the message I put in there, the execution of it. And I want you to do that. I want to challenge the way you think and challenge the way you take in music.
Through these candid remarks from Kendrick Lamar, we can begin to get a picture of what makes K-Dot's approach to delivery so diametrically different to everyone else in the game. And that's step number 1, embody the musical experience through your voice. Since the outset of his career, the Compton native has captivated listeners with his diverse array of flows and capacity to get to the very heart of a social, political, or personal issue with an acuity that no other artist possesses. But along these commonly employed tools, K-Dot is a man who utilizes the full scope of his vocal cords in a way that MCs who are less artistically inclined may not even consider. Where many artists would lead with braggadocio or an air of menace as a rule of thumb, Lamar uses his voice as the tool in a way that doesn't simply complement his exquisitely crafted bars, but transports the listener into the emotional root of the track. Rather than just dispensing his words into the world with carelessness, Kendrick is mindful of the fact that how they're uttered is just as important as how they're crafted if they are to have the intended resonance. It's not tough to write, he says, when you're writing from experiences. It's like that. The hardest part is actually recording it because you have so many different emotions you may not want to pour out on the microphone. Having revealed that doing music is the only way for me to get that conflict out, it's no surprise that recording his bars is actually more daunting to him than the prospect of penning words. Seeing the delivery is every bit as crucial as the craftsmanship. What aspiring artists should learn from K-Dot is that you don't just relay the lyrics, but embody the musical experience through your voice. Over time, K-Dot's chameleonic vocal cords have become an integral part of his appeal to the extent that fans can have their preference in terms of modes of expression or narrative styles that they connect with when it comes to Kendrick Lamar.
Do you have a favorite Kendrick Lamar, like a voice of his?
This ain't free.
This ain't free, baby.
This ain't free.
I like his whole era of like backseat freestyle and just like the aggressiveness of it.
How did you know?
The timbre in his voice is very discernible.
We got all these people sounding like them.
I know, it's wild, right?
Like when you listen to a Kendrick Lamar song, you get tranced.
He has his own style and is like doing his own thing, and it sets him apart.
Known to enlist the full spectrum of emotions and technological tools at his disposal, K-Dot's method of recording and augmenting his voice for the song in question is closer to method acting than it is to what other artists do in the booth. If you yourself are an artist looking to master your rap voice in 2023 with the professional skill of a Kendrick Lamar, click the first link in the video description and take part in our Rap Voice Mastery course featuring even more Kendrick Lamar voice breakdowns, and it comes as a free bonus when you click that link below. Now, when used as the place where the multifaceted nature of his identity as an old school Gemini is expressed, K-Dot's delivery doesn't just emerge fully formed, with his tried and trusted producer Soundwave revealing that he rehearses the song over and over in his head so he can get the full feeling. K-Dot will do whatever it takes to get the highest degree of expressiveness out of his vocal cords. As documented by Soundwave on the Big Hit podcast, one notable instance where Kung Fu Kenny pushed himself to the limits in order to deliver an emphatic performance came on the heart-rending You, a standout on the sprawling odyssey of To Pimp a Butterfly that takes in everything from feelings of survivor's guilt to deep-seated resentment of the self. You need to be made of stone not to feel emotions rousing within you when you hear Kendrick's pained, regretful rasp on the track. As to why it sounds so effective, it's because he's utilized his real-life pain of losing a friend to fuel the track, opting to leave himself in darkness in order to be alone with the pain. Conversely, the grief-stricken vocals emerged. That time, he actually went into the booth, turned out all the lights, and you just knew something was different, said Soundwave, who co-produced the song with Taz Arnold and Who Are I? Going back to that, like, I'm about to tear up. That was deep. I never seen him like that. I've seen him experiment on trying to get different things out, but to actually pull that emotion out, in my head I felt him bombarding himself for every hard thought that's hitting him at the moment just to get the feeling. Described as a mad scientist by Punch of TDE, this approach teaches us that Kendrick believes that the thematic needs of the track should be served by the voice. So just as you required abject sorrow, a boisterous track such as Backseat Freestyle, or later the cathartic Mirror from Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, requires a more strident, brasher delivery. Considering that he told Zane Lowe that people can write about anything, but if I don't feel it, then the listener sure ain't gonna feel it. One of Kendrick's greatest strengths as both a performer and writer is that he feels duty-bound to never sugarcoat. Instead, he bears his soul at every conceivable opportunity, and the rawness and candor which he musters up in his voice, and for him, that was crucial to the delivery of his Pulitzer Prize-winning 2017 album, Damn.
Control your own emotions and how to even speak that truth on a record to expose yourself even more, to have that closer connection with another human and have them relate to it. You know, it's not easy telling your truths, things that you fear from when you were 7, 17, and even a couple years ago.
A strategy that teaches us that imperfection is permitted, provided there's a purpose behind it. Nothing is accidental when it comes to K-Dot, and this brings us neatly to the next pillar of his philosophy on vocals that will stand you in good stead going forward. Step number 2, take ownership of your performance.
A genius. He is really a genius. I mean, I don't know exactly what time of the day, but he probably came the afternoon and left late at night, did it there on the spot. He'd walk around, he'd play the record over and over again. I played him songs, the Starboy theme, of course, which he incorporated into his verse. And he would just walk around, we had food, he's writing his verse in his head. He'd go into his phone, look at it a few, and then put it back in, start walking around. He then, at one point, went into the studio booth, like closed the door, and like I can hear him like yelling his verse like in his head.
Just committing it.
He's just really committing it. You could tell he put his all into it.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a random Kendrick Lamar verse. It was something special because, again, he killed it, man. He really killed it. He laid it down, recorded it like 4 or 5 times. He sat here with my guys, with Doc, and he edited his vocals, and that was it. That was the record.
Through the testimony of a fellow visionary, Abel Tesfaye, otherwise known as The Weeknd, we once again get a window into what results in the chasm that exists between K-Dot and his contemporaries in terms of rap voice delivery. For Kendrick, there is no conceivable way that he could simply lay a verse down and leave it marooned out there in the world without him to guide it to its full potential. At every opportunity, Kendrick takes ownership of his vocal performance, whether in the moment or in post-production. As opposed to letting the mix fall under someone else's purview, Kung Fu Kenny will stay as long as it takes until he's happy, meaning that every time you hear from him, you're hearing the truest representation of his artistic intent. It's not like, watch me get it in one take, says Soundwave. It's like, watch me get the best take. Sometimes we have a song complete and he's like, nah, my tone in it. Redo the whole thing. He redoes it and it's like a different song now just because of the tone that he switched up. In the viewpoint of Kendrick and the fire team that helped him to make his music special and affecting as it is, there's quite simply no reason to ever release a bad vocal take to the world. As even if you rap the voice to the point that you hate it and your voice is hoarse, it might just add that intangible quality to it that elevates it above the music of others. By that same token, that sense of accomplishment will only help you going forward. And with that, we land on the third and final key point of Kendrick's methodology: believe in your vocal abilities.
Also with the same influence I got from Sugar Free. Sugar Free played a big part of my community coming up in Compton, and that was one of his cadence that I'm sure you probably studied James Brown to get that cadence, just the way I studied James Brown to hear it in both of them. So hard work, man, at the end of the day, man, me paying homage and bringing it all the way across. That's me taking pride in my pen and just being the most confident in the things that I write and the ideas that I have. Going back to the essence of being a true lyricist at heart.
Possessing the brassiness to channel icons and assert his dominance over the competition on King Kunta, one thing which is absolutely palpable in Kendrick's approach is his unfaltering self-belief. While it's admittedly easy to harbor that when you're the most acclaimed rapper in the world, this is something that Kendrick has had in spades since the days of cartoons and cereal. Not shy about commingling influences from further afield, K-Dot's remarks suggest that the fervency of his delivery on King Kunta and other tracks, in which he opts to flex on his foes such as Rigor Mortis, his contribution to Control, and Humble, all come down to his faith in the power of his rhymes and his ability to deliver them in a compelling way. As rather than seeing them as separate disciplines, Kendrick is all too willing to acknowledge the symbiotic relationship between your voice, the music, and your bars. I don't really think of hits. What I think of are melodies. I think the melody is the drive for all records, period. Whether it's a hit, a cliche underground record, or a cliche mainstream record. I can talk about whatever I want as long as it has a melody. Seen as a psychological state of mind that he has to inhabit, Kendrick knows that you can only operate at the peak of your powers when you're content in the knowledge that what you say carries weight. Put in the simplest of terms, if you don't believe in your vocal delivery or the words that you're sputtering out, then why should anyone else? So by nurturing this trust in both what he scribbles and how he dispatches it off to the world, the supreme confidence that he's instilled in himself enables him to branch out and, over time, become the most captivating and at times risk-taking vocal performer of a generation. And so, as long as he remains active in the game, you can bet that Kendrick will continue to see his delivery as not so much a prerequisite, but a puzzle to be solved that'll provide the energizing rush of endorphins that can only come with pushing yourself to the limits. This is truly a blessing from a higher power, Kendrick says. And as long as I understand that there's really no limitations to what I can do, everything is forward with me. When I'm in the studio, I'm looking for creativity I haven't matched yet, a feeling I haven't felt. It's a high. When you look at people like Jay-Z, Nas, Dr. Dre, these people are established, but they love music and they love that high. You always want that feeling of creativity. Whether you're a seasoned vet or a novice rapper who's just taking your first tentative steps into the rap game, we can only implore you to heed K-Dot's almost fanatical approach and work ethic when it comes to finding each song's individual voice. As when you do, then, as he's made evident, you'll not just separate yourself from the pack, but you have the ability to tread where no other artist before you has on your path to an unparalleled career. Now I want to see you in the comments. Which Kendrick track do you think has the most voice or voices? And of course, if you're an artist yourself who wants to improve your rap voice, be sure to check out that course in the video description. I've been your host, Drew Morrissey, the big homie Drew for How to Rap. I'm out.